Happy Sunday, everyone. Well-educated and oftentimes enthusiastically disruptive men's issues advocate. Not every girl's dream job, but hey, remember that men also matter. Hey, it's so great to be back. I'm delivering my very first show for 2022. Had more than a touch of COVID back in January, followed by a nice little recovery jaunt to Glenelg in Adelaide with my little sweetheart to top off the month. And now almost at the end of February, today, as always, I continue to unwrap one of the most greatest gifts going around, and that's people. Layer by layer, we explore the thoughts, experiences, achievements, and challenges of ordinary people bound to inspire the best version of you. So turn up your radio. The time is just 1 minute past 10, and we just heard from the beautiful and talented Michelle Ciccardo with her much accomplished producer Alex Burney and their globally popular Italian program Fantastica, Michelle and Alex. So today I've gone all out and created a space for our special on and off air guests. First up, observing all things panel and production, is 17-year-old Nicholas, who's quite keen to see radio in production. So Nicholas, pay close attention, especially to the things that don't go as expected, like when I mispronounce words, for example. As for my on-air guest, this certainly is not our maiden voyage in bringing a show together at 3WBC. However, it's been quite some time since I shared the airwaves with Jez, so let me formally introduce Jeremey Samson. Jeremey was 6 years old when he was diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome, and he saw the world as a unique, creative, and at times a very strange and frightening place. Although Jeremey was aware of his differences, he couldn't articulate how he felt, but recognised he was determinedly different. He will tell us all about that and what it felt like him during the show. But what this man has achieved, though, is quite remarkable. At the tender age of 21, Jeremey harnessed his indomitable spirit to create Time to Train, a movement program for people with autism. And for the past 14 years, Jeremey's drive and passion has spanned the globe with his message and purpose around creating fun and revolutionary opportunities for people living on the spectrum. So without further ado, Jeremey, can I please hand the mic to you?
It's a very, very good morning to you, Rae, and that was just a remarkable introduction. I can't believe that 14 years has just flown by so quickly.
You don't even look that old, Jez.
Oh, you'd think that I'd be almost going on about sort of 50 with working with children that have autism, but it's been such a remarkable journey. And look, here we are again doing it, telling the story, and it's great to be here in the studio with you and sharing the airwaves, as you say. And I take my hat off to the work that you do as well. It's phenomenal, looking after, men and men's health. So very, very important stuff. So we're in that field, and look, it has been wonderful to look after and support the families with children on the autism spectrum for such a long time. And yes, 21 and. I had no idea quite what I was doing, but we'll cover that story fairly shortly, I suppose.
We certainly will. We've got a whole 2 hours to fill in. But, every time I see you and every time we pop on air together, which has been quite a few times, I always learn something different from you. You're always doing something new, stretching and pushing yourself to drive further into the autism space and create better ways for people to manage.
A lot has happened, as we know, with COVID, and that sort of threw a real spanner in everybody's lives and stuff. And, for these guys that, for a lot, they've found it quite a wonderful experience because the world got a little quieter and we're all a little bit more inside our homes and things. So for a lot of families that I certainly work with, that was quite a pleasant experience, but for a lot, it really just disrupted a lot of those, routines and rituals and things like that. So,
and is it fair to say that many people who live on the spectrum are quite wedded to routine?
Yes, I would say, in my experience, including my own journey as well, that routine, like with all of us, is quite a fundamental importance to keeping us on the right path to getting from the start of the day to the end.
Yeah.
But for these guys, certainly routine is almost like an embedded language. So they absolutely can find that doing the things that absolutely brings a lot of comfort and security to them is what they absolutely need to stick to.
Yes.
And a lot of the work that I'm certainly doing and have done is to try to help them feel a bit more confident and encouraged to take a step out of that.
Well, I think, 14 years is testament that, you're doing something right.
Yes, I'm still here and, certainly growing and expanding to absolutely reach out to more areas where, there's not as much support.
Yeah, or understanding.
And that's a good problem to have because I have not only firsthand experienced the success of my own work, but to see it now starting to rub off on so many others. So that's kind of the real journey in short.
Well, I tracked back. I think we met originally, must have been back in 2015. And
Yes.
that was when we first started meeting on air, and how we met was through Dougal Austin, who
That's right.
is was another presenter here at 3WBC,
Yes.
who also lives on the spectrum.
That's right. And Dougal found out about me through the Whitehorse local leader newspaper and was quick to stitch me up for an interview there, which that sort of then kick-started into a regular. And
Yes.
so I fell into doing shows through 94.1 FM, and Dougal was fantastic, and to learn about his journey and the challenges that he's experienced. And yeah, it was just a wonderful time there, Rae, where we both then were raising the awareness, and we then took it from that radio segment every fortnight to out on the tour, which was phenomenal.
Yes,
Something
that's
a
right.
bit different there.
Thank
and
you,
travelled
COVID,
around.
for trashing that. But that's right. Between the two of you, I think what I really observed, I'm co-hosting on the spectrum with you guys a lot of the time, is that everyone who is on the spectrum has a different experience.
Yeah, they do.
And it's like anything in mental health. We chuck a label on stuff like anxiety or depression, and we view that person as the label.
That's right.
Whereas, there are so many nuances and differences that people experience underneath that label. So
100%. I think in my later years now, I'm very quick to observe the child or family, and I certainly read all the reports, which goes into great detail of what's really going on. And then I very much want to, before I go down the journey and path of that label or that title that's associated to that individual, I'm very quick to look at what are the psychological factors, or what are the other things that might be going on first before we get to something of a autism or an Asperger's diagnosis.
Yep.
So on paper is one thing, but I'm very quick to go, I need to do my own evaluation and assessment. And anxiety and stress and or obsessive compulsive, all these other overlapping conditions, even specific learning disorders. There are so many children that are very quickly diagnosed, Rae, with something like autism spectrum disorder or attention deficit, and it's, well, hold on, we've got to look at how are they going from a reading and a writing perspective? How is their language, their communication? How is their balance and coordination? How are they coping with their emotions and regulating them? And how is their memory and cognitive ability and all those sorts of things?
Yep.
So when we break it right down and see where the strengths and weaknesses are, then we should go forward with looking at whether or not this child in particular
What
is on the
do you
autism
think
spectrum.
about diagnosis in terms of, you were diagnosed when you were 6, which was very fortunate, but not many children aren't as fortunate as you are, and it's not until later in life that diagnosis occurs. Is that too far gone then?
Well, I think, look, firstly, diagnosis is incredibly important just for that awareness and, to begin a routine of early intervention. So that's where I was a bit more fortunate because, as I've said previously in my story, I was diagnosed around a time when it was about 1 in 2,500, so it wasn't really well recognised. And I was actually originally diagnosed with attention deficit disorder, which then later was Asperger's, because it seemed that I struggled more in those social environments. So yes, I think these days, and why even the rise of autism diagnosis is so high or increasingly going in that direction, is I think that we've taken a little bit of, we're very quick, a lot of clinicians can be very quick to just see a few traits or characteristics and straight away just label and diagnose as autism level 1, 2 or 3. You know, I work predominantly level 1 and level 2.
Yeah.
I have worked with level 3, which is more severe, but again, it's I try to help and support the message to clinicians. Just take that extra bit of time there to really assess all these other factors that might be there first before autism.
Because after all, it's not just the diagnosis, is it? It's, you know, what does it feel like being that person?
Yes.
And what attributes that person has as well. And
Exactly.
quite often you see in the disability sector or the more disadvantaged sectors as people being labelled as not being able to manage. And that's why you're such a perfect example of somebody who has a definite diagnosis, but you have so many attributes that have led to your success that perhaps, you know, mainstream people don't have.
That's right. Look, anxiety is, I think, one of the biggest roots that affects not only just everybody, but that's certainly, I think, one of the things that a lot of children that do receive that diagnosis will find the most challenging, is how to manage and cope with anxiety and stress.
Yeah.
And a lot, unfortunately, do come from, you know, backgrounds that aren't as perfect or not as harmonious, you know, in the home. So we're looking at things like post-traumatic stress disorder and how that mimics and looks very identical to a diagnosis of autism or Asperger's. So how many of these guys are really affected by chronic anxiety or trauma? And as you know, Rae, you know, when you're affected and suffering and struggling with huge amounts of trauma, that can lead to all sorts of impairments and
oh, yes. I mean, there's so much
everyday
comorbid
life.
stuff
Yes.
as well, which makes it even more complex.
100%.
You know, as you said, somebody has experienced trauma as a child
Yes.
and also lives, you know, with, you know, other diagnosis, then it becomes very confusing.
Yes. So many, unfortunately, and also girls as well, which I have the experience in seeing that a lot of girls are on the spectrum. They're growing functionally almost too quickly and fast, and so they struggle to regulate emotions or fit into those social circles because they're already ready to socialise with those 10 or 15 years older. It's quite
That's right. It
extraordinary.
is a fact, though, isn't it, that girls are often overlooked in terms of being diagnosed
Absolutely.
at the
and
early age.
misdiagnosed as
Yes.
well with having other comorbid conditions and things. So it's really important that the girls are very closely evaluated and looked at so that they receive the right supports, just like anyone, so that their journey is made a lot easier in the long run, for sure.
Jeremey, there's a lot of talk, you know, about many different things, like working in the mental health space, the common narrative, more people are experiencing mental health challenges, or, you know, more people are experiencing anxiety and depression at the moment because of COVID. In my mind, I think we're just getting better at diagnosing, but also reducing that stigma where people actually can talk about what's going on for them, especially around suicide prevention and things like that. But it's the same with Asperger's. It's like, oh, more kids are getting it.
Yeah.
Is what truth is there to that?
Well, yeah, look, I absolutely agree with you, Rae, that I think something like this whole pandemic, which, again, 1 in 100 sort of year occurrence, it's quite extraordinary how that whole stressful last 2 years that we've experienced has really unearthed a lot of those characteristics, symptoms and traits and behaviours of something of an autism or an Asperger's profile. So what a lot of children and individuals may have to their loved ones, their parents, have seen as just an anxious child.
Yeah.
Something like this whole pandemic has really brought out that actually they've really got something else going on here that we need to really look at more carefully, because we for so long have just thought that they had a few little quirks and differences, but the frequency of those behaviours has really exacerbated due to the whole environment and situation over the last year and a half, 2 years.
Yeah.
So that's where I think a lot of families have now taken a time and opportunity to get their loved one assessed more than ever.
I just had a question from somebody, Bruce, who's just texted in to say, ask Jeremy, what's the difference between ADHD and autism, or are they both on the same kind of spectrum?
Well, I think good question, Bruce. And my short answer is that most of these conditions kind of sort of overlap, so they're kind of within the spectrum. But autism and ADHD is ADHD's got more of a struggle with focus and a lack of attention, and autism is more of a strong connection to routine, lack of change, struggle with social, and depending on severity of autism, the traits and behaviours are much more profound. So level 1 is more of the milder end, and level 3 certainly more, stronger to intellectual disability sort of thing, as well as autism. Whereas ADHD, we're looking more at sort of inability to sort of regulate themselves under enormous amount of stress and anxiety.
Yeah, so focus.
Yes, and focus being the big one, the concentration. So again, anxiety kind of the root, and then the behaviours are sort of, exacerbated because of that. So that's where a lot of the training that I do approach children and even teenagers with is, if we can manage the stress and anxiety of this individual, we will start to see a lot more management of those behaviours and traits. And so when I was in the Herald Sun, I think 2016, for my article, I Conquered Asperger's, yes, I got so much support for that, as well as a lot of trials and backlash, because a lot of people in the autism community were very quick to say, you can't cure. And I had to say, conquer is not cure. Conquer means management. I have worked hard to manage. I have not cured my condition or diagnosis. I will always have my condition, but I'm not a passenger. I am now the driver.
You live with it.
I live with it.
Yeah.
So I've grown with it, and I've learnt how to put so many of those childhood challenges off to the side, almost as if they do not exist, I suppose, which I'm 35 this year, and I do not feel as though that they have any contribution to my life. I sort of think about it and think, well, that's like a distant memory now.
Yeah.
So when I tell my journey and story to others, it's sort of a hope and inspiration story. The amount of children that absolutely are drawn to, want to change or improve because they want friends this, they want to connect more that, they want to be involved here, and they want to achieve more there. Anything to help them, that's what I'm all about. Because it's like you don't have to live your life where you struggle and you're always facing these obstacles all the time.
But again, that is the narrative, isn't it?
It is the narrative, yes.
It's a problem, it's an issue,
yes.
It's a challenge. And of course, life is a challenge for anybody, but
absolutely.
And I know that my approach in mental health, it's to get away from that, struggling, suffering, kind of can't do, shattered kind of approach to
Absolutely.
What can you do with what you've got. And I mean, I live with chronic depression and anxiety, and it, many times it serves me well because it makes me a little edgy, and it propels me forward, and I'm a little bit quirky because of those things too. So
yes, absolutely.
How we talk about it and how we socialize it, and that's why I love working with you, because you've taken this thing, and this might sound incorrect, but you've almost glamorized it.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm certainly I'm with you there. I put it out there that don't always focus on the positive, the negatives.
Yes.
Always look forward to the positives, but use the positives to certainly try to help get you through those negatives.
Yeah.
And I think that's all back to, again, that powerful mind that we all have.
Yes.
And how we choose to live our lives and what we do in our lives determines whether or not we're going in the right direction.
Well, that's right. I mean, we've got young Nicholas in the studio today.
We do.
We're waving at him, and he's going to come and sit.
Looking ready to go.
Sit in during the next break and have a look at how it all happens. But he's particularly interested in radio production, and I think I personally love radio, and radio helps me manage my mental health.
You put the Rae into radio, don't we? Yeah.
Radio.
It's this whole environment and setup has really served and suited you very well
Yes.
for a long time, Rae. It's like you're in your zone.
I know. People get surprised when I go, I've got a radio show. Yeah, I'm famous.
It's been a while since I've had a big mic in front of my face, Rae.
Well, as you know, I did a couple of years project in the entertainment industry where I wrote programs based on research. Recent research that was done around mental health in the entertainment industry, which is really shabby. Anyway, I was interviewing somebody on air about this piece of research and how the outcomes suggesting that, mental health in the entertainment industry is not very good. Yeah. Yes. And I said, I really feel for those people. And they said, but you work in the entertainment industry, Rae. I went, oh, so I do. Radio, here I am.
You're not wrong there. It was very quickly. So there are certainly, I've experienced interacting with those that are in the media and things, and on the surface, you almost think that they're just that character that you do see on that television screen or movie theatre screen and things. And but behind the scenes, it's a very different story, a very private life this, or struggling and suffering and depression that. So we see what we see and think, oh, they're fantastic. Look, they're wonderful. The celebrity, or I love that actor or actress. But the mental health of these individuals, the pressure that's put on them, and the way that they've got to, construct and live their lives to, get these jobs and these auditions and things like this to keep that going. Yeah, it's not all sunshine and roses.
No, especially
so I take my hat off
with barriers to employment.
And COVID really threw a big impact. Yeah. To the whole
also
film
very good
and TV media industry.
Definitely. Yes. But there's also good things that came out of COVID as well. A lot of really, really good things that we don't address. But, absolutely. You're talking about anxiety and depression, and you mentioned to me when we were chatting on the phone the other night about how anxiety and depression can be a key feature of autism. Yes. Is that as a result of living in a society that is not structured to support people on the spectrum, or is it actually a feature of?
Well, I think it's a bit of both. If I really think about it, in short. So, I think for a lot of these individuals, yes, they're not coping with the familiarity of what's going on in their environment or everyday life and stuff. So, a lot of them can be, introverted or find it much more comfortable to stay at home, which is why so many did sort of strive and thrive during the COVID pandemic. And also, I think the interactions with their parents. I've noticed certainly over the years that when I'm working with, say, a child, 6 to 8 years, I see a lot of the features there, certainly, of a particular profile. But then I sit down for 10, 15 minutes with mum or dad at the end, and I see, there we go. The apple has not fallen far from the tree. So a lot of why the child is expressing or re-expressing a lot of their traits and behaviours and things is because they've copied and imitated, and a lot of it's rubbed off and passed down. Yes. And we can very quickly say, autism, genetic. Not quite. I'm very fascinated by the field and the study of epigenetics there, Rae, which is the environment and how the environment impacts our genes. And there's a lot of things passed down from generation to generation to generation. So we are all, in a way, sort of living through our subconscious programming. And we could have another show all just on that. How our parents before us and parents before them. Yes. And everything that they've done, from how to parent or how to approach, how to manage their health and well-being, is passed down. Yes. And then it's passed down. And so your son, for example, Rae, has already adopted many of the characteristics and features and traits and mannerisms and things from yourself.
Can I tell you something?
Hopefully all good.
The other night I'd had a fairly, I'd say a gnarly day at work, as often happens in my occupation. And I rang him and said, Rory, I'm going to be home a bit late. I've got ambulances happening. I've got the whole thing happening. So can you, unpack the dishwasher, do all these things? Yes, Mum. Yes, Mum. So I came home and I was still on the phone, and I was walking through the house, and I knew he was there and I couldn't find him. Anyway, I got to my bedroom door and out he walks in an entire outfit of mine. So he's got the dress, he's got the boots, he's got the makeup.
Wow.
And he was being Rae Bonney, he said. And it was Valentine's Day. So when you said he mimics, he literally had dressed as me. He said, I knew you had a hard day and I just wanted to make you smile. And I was not entirely, I said to the person I was speaking to, I think I need to go.
Oh, that would have been so adorable.
It's hilarious. I'll show you the photo later.
Please
it was terrifying as well as entertaining. But I can't believe the time that has elapsed already, Jeremy. I know. So we're going to go to a break and then we're going to get Nicholas into the studio so he can have a bit of a close-up look at the panel and the mics and the computers and how it all works. But we come to what I call a very special guest song request.
Ooh.
So that's you, the very special guest.
Thank you.
Now, I'm a little self-indulgent with the first one, as you requested this on a show back in 2017,
Yes.
and it has become a little bit of a family favourite of ours. And every time it comes on, I'll go, everyone shush, this song is on, and they get all grossed out by it. But after we get back from this very special guest song request, we're going to talk to you about what it felt like being a 6-year-old Jeremey Samson and how you grew into that, because I know you had significant challenges, not just to do with your autism, but also within your family as well. So can you introduce this song, please?
Well, it's a lovely Sunday, and so we all could do with a little bit of extra loving, couldn't we?
Love.
So, yes, Love Machine.
And it's by Wham! Don't go away, people. We'll be right back. You're listening to 94.1 3WB. The time is exactly 10:30 and you're listening to 94.1 FM. It's 3WBC with Rae Bonney and Jeremey Samson.
That was a bit hot there, Ray. I got a bit hot there
Did
from
you?
that song, yeah. Had to step
I know.
outside just to get a bit of fresh air. That's it.
Bloody George.
We just had Valentine's Day too, didn't we?
We
That's
did.
it. Yeah.
We did
What'd
last.
you do?
Well, I was surprised by Rory dressed up as me and pretty much zero. What about you? How did you score?
Oh, I didn't score this year, but I plan ahead. Next time. That's it.
Next time, send something
That's right.
to yourself.
No, I get a lot of love from everybody and the love and support from family and friends and things. So that's my Valentine's. That'll do.
Oh, well, that's a good way of looking at it.
Another way to look at it. That's right.
Yeah.
I don't need the roses. In fact, I'm not really much of a flower person, right?
Am I allowed to ask about your love life? Because last time I heard...
Real brief. I'm at the moment doing... I'm quite comfortable keeping to myself. I still keep in touch with my former partner. We're very amicable and friends, and she's been wonderful support of late. But I'm not much of a flower person, just because once you got the flowers, you have to you just slowly watch them fade. And
because last time I saw you, you were kind of totally in love, and
oh well, time does change, I suppose.
Tell us about Love on the Spectrum. How does that work, or is there obstacles?
Well, look, that show on Netflix. You
Yes.
know, I did try to audition. I put my hand out there. I had a lot of followers and supporters to say, yes, you'd make a wonderful host for such a show to raise awareness. And, it's... look, I think that love for individuals on the spectrum is both a wonderful experience as well as, like with anything, has its challenges, and my dating... part of my life, I suppose, in all that sense, kicked off sort of around 14, 15. So that's probably another show in itself too, to be honest. But for these guys, look, absolutely, it's all about learning how to navigate. Yeah. They're not always going to get it right, which I say to some that are, in their teenage years and they're interested in stuff that I give them the sort of the cues and bits and pieces just to help them, because sometimes they can do too much. Say the wrong thing, wrong time, not quite get it right, and it's all part of life's wonderful experience, So I try not to make them feel like too alien about it, so it's all right.
But would you date somebody else on the spectrum?
Well, I've tried. I did try.
Does that just get totally then confusing?
And I walked away. I thought, no, I'll never do that again. But that's nothing against people that are on the spectrum, because there are some real lovely individuals, I
just like to ask all the hard questions, Jez. Get straight to the point. But growing up, you know, I mean, you've got a wonderful mum, and a big shout out to Jez's mum. She's not well at the moment, and Jeremey, beautiful son that he is actually taking care of her.
Yes.
What's her name again? Jan. Big.
Yeah.
I'm sure Jan's not listening in.
She was not happy Jan for many years when I was growing up. She really pulled me in line a lot of the time and stuff.
Yep.
And so that was a lot of stress and pressure on her and stuff.
Yes.
So I can't imagine, how she coped, really.
Yeah.
But a big shout out because, you know, she's about to turn 72.
Pretty young
month,
by
so
today's
still
standards. Yeah.
Pretty young. But unfortunately, she had some falls and that wasn't very good. And then there was a bit of a fracture to the pelvis there. So she's recovering.
Good.
As
well,
we speak
she's lucky to have
so,
you, because I know she's pretty much raised you on your own because you lost your dad quite early, didn't you?
I did, yes. So at age 10, a heart attack at 50 and no father going forward. So my mother really was a shining example that it's very possible to be not just a single parent, but to actually raise a child with that diagnosis and be sort of two parents. She was mother and father.
Yes.
You know, so there were plenty of those sit-down conversations. Son, I need your help. I know that Dad's not around.
Yeah.
I know that you haven't got a father like many others, but I'm here, and I really encourage you to step it up, to take a bit more responsibility to help me out. We can do this, you know. So I was sort of, I guess, not only struggling to come to terms, Rae, from an early age with my condition.
Yeah.
I drew the picture of the brain. I tried to describe all that as best I could.
Is that how your mum kind of clued on? Because
yes,
you drew a picture of what your brain felt like.
She knew before I did. And then, of course, I had to say, I don't know how to write it, so I just want to draw a picture. And she said, what a great idea. Draw the picture and then talk to me about it. Tell me what it's like going on in your mind. You know, so I got the piece of paper, drew all the television sets, and she said, explain what's going on. So it was like a series of TVs all lined up with all their antennas all sprouting out, and the one down the end just wasn't working. The antenna was not straight, the picture's not very clear, and she said, well, that's okay, son. All we have to do is just tune the picture, straighten the antenna as best we can, and then the picture will be much clearer for you. So, and that was it. That's all it was just a journey of working out how to tune things, how to get more understanding, how to increase the connections within myself and my environment wherever I was. I'd look at children, Rae, and I'd go, I have no idea what you're doing. I'm not interested. But why you do the things you do, I have no understanding. I just was like a little performer and a little actor trying to portray like...
To fit in.
Just to fit in, that's it. But in my mind, sometimes a lot of it was just in one ear and out the other. Like it was all just noise. So I now these days really motivate and help children who kind of struggling a little bit with that.
Go back to that, because that's really, really quite important in that you had to fit in, you had to adapt yourself to fit in. So that's when you're a child. And then we were talking before about you conquering rather than being cured. So these days, are you the same 6-year-old Jeremey that's just adapted so enormously that you do?
I almost feel, if I'm being very honest, it feels like I've not only integrated and fit in, but I've now gone beyond that. I think ascended is a good word. A sort of ascended past, and now I can see so clear, almost, too clear at times. I see things happening a mile away, so I think we call that intuition. But I now I feel like I'm on the outside of a lot of things and looking right in to help people who are really struggling with their own mental health or with whatever condition that they might be with. So,
but do things ever look confusing for you still?
Not as much. And anything that I certainly am not sure of, I've got that wonderful, healthy confidence to ask and go, I'm not sure what you mean, or I don't quite understand that. So I think that's a very important skill that I learned early that I pass on to so many families to share with their children is don't pretend like you don't know, or don't continually act as if you have no idea. Not all the time anyway.
Yeah.
Pick and choose. Sometimes a little bit of a performance or, a little bit is okay if it means fitting in.
Yeah.
But my mother was very quick on, son, do you understand what's going on? And I'd nod my head as if yes.
Yeah.
And she'd say, well, what does that mean? And I go, I don't know, I'm not sure. And she'd say, well, don't say that you know when you actually don't.
Yes.
Come on, don't lie and be dishonest. Just tell the truth, And
Yep.
that was a very hard thing for me to do because I just thought, well, lie, act, perform and do whatever it takes to portray as if I'm like everybody else. And I learnt through my environment. I observed others. They were doing it natural. Thought, why not? I'll do exactly what they're doing. It's as simple as that.
But I think, it's how most people learn, isn't it? By mimicry and
observation,
you were
observational
talking,
learning.
Yeah, before about, parents and, that we mimic.
I joked and say to a lot, I was probably, I could have been a natural human behavioural therapist from the age of 6 onwards, truly, just looking at and studying the behaviours. Why do they do what they do?
And Jeremy, I'm going to actually ask you to continue speaking into your microphone because you keep on getting out of mic.
There we go.
So we do reproduce this show, people. So I do reproduce it onto my YouTube. So we like to have the best
quality. My apologies.
That's
I'll
all
put my mouth over the mic. How about that?
No, I like being the boss,
I like that too.
Speak into the mic. When you lost your dad at 10,
yes,
what was that like?
Well, that was one of the most incredibly devastating and tragic things that could have ever occurred, I think.
Did you understand what was happening?
Yes, but it was more or less trying to accept it. I think that's pretty normal for a lot of people too, is it's happened, but you can't believe it. And I was 10 at a friend's place. My mother and her ex-husband had arrived to pick me up from my friend's place. And I could see the look in her face. I didn't know why she had brought her ex-partner along, and my brother as well. He was there. But I looked at them and I thought, yep, something is definitely not right, and Dad's not there. Please don't tell me that he's not around. And of course, that was the case. And so I had to process that. I could feel my mind and everything inside of me trying to scramble in how to piece that together. And that was absolutely the most challenging thing. And I felt something within me immediately just sort of break, and shatter, only to then, right, how do I get on with life now? Because this person is no longer here. And it's interesting because something like the movie Star Wars was a very close connecting movie to me growing up, not just for the sci-fi, but because the story kind of connected really strong with my life and exactly what I was going through, where he loses his mentor or father figure, and it drove him to want to become the Jedi. So I felt this drive to now not only just step up and help Mum, but to really be motivated by becoming my own person and really want to not just fit in, but really understand more than ever.
Yes.
Because I don't have that father figure to help teach me.
Now, this might surprise you, but I've never seen Star Wars in my entire life.
Well, now you might just have a look.
I'm kind of proud of that, and I'm not about to jump in.
Sure, no.
But you mentioned, the mentoring thing. So did you then adopt another mentor?
It's interesting. I hear a lot of other stories and people's lives, how they've coped. We kind of naturally, when we've lost someone, particularly even earlier in life, trying to look for the father figure. It's fragmented, and so we try to look through other people. I had friends and their fathers, just other males that I would surround myself around. Teachers with male teachers, anything.
You went to mainstream school, didn't you?
Mainstream school, yes. So any male figure that sort of had what I was looking for, I would be getting myself closer to
like gravitating.
to sit down. Yes, absolutely, gravitate towards to learn and take what I could from them, I suppose, to help me further. So I look back and sort of think, well, I was kind of like a bit of a thief in a way, stealing the attributes and just anything to help me keep going. Because, again, in the back of my mind as a young boy, I could feel the dark shadow trying to take over and sort of push me towards that's it.
It's interesting talking about influence. I met a young lady recently and she had a really unusual accent. And I said, where are you from? And she said, Albury. I went, okay. So what's with the accent?
Albury.
She goes, it's actually it's a television accent, Dora the Explorer.
Oh, right.
So
yes.
she as a young kid, she became so obsessed with Dora the Explorer that she adopted the accent.
It's actually, there was a few individuals and some that were diagnosed autism that have a condition known as foreign accent syndrome.
Oh, right.
Yeah, so the brain actually is wired a
Yep.
particular way and stuff, whereby they adopt the trait or the accent of that person or show that they've watched. And I think for a lot of years, myself even, when I was doing drama and acting, would absolutely love and thrive in putting on different accents, not just to perform and show off, but also just that's what kept me positive and kept me going mentally.
Yeah.
Was to do these things that quirk this, odd behaviour that.
Given that you're 35 years old now, so you're an early adopter of being on the spectrum. And, navigating through, that whole tragedy of losing your dad and having your mum raise you, how would you compare the system, like in the system of support for for autism to now?
Oh, well, I mean, we didn't have NDIS back in the 90s. So I think, again, it's really an eye-opener to see that in one sense we have the NDIS, which is absolutely crucial, so important, and it's wonderful we do have it. But now, more than ever, hearing of so many headaches with the system, and there are a lot of people just not receiving adequate funding and support. And I really feel and my heart goes out to those families. But as well, I also do step back and think, well, you've become quite so dependent on this system as well to help, and that's one thing. But
was there a system of help for you back then?
Not like anything we've got now, but yeah, it was definitely like I was seeing psychologist and part of a support group and doing other, activities and things that, my mother did her best to fund and pay for.
Did that help you?
Absolutely, yeah. I think the variety too.
And did that in some way inspire you to create Time to Train?
I look back now and I certainly, absolutely, yes. I see many of the different styles of support that I received as part of constructing Time to Train, particularly the movement program that I was placed on growing up, which was based in the US, and that was just simply moving your body and learning through the movements of what that does, and very basic, nothing complicated. It was just, 15, 20 minutes a night of just doing floor-based gymnastics sort of style exercises, which I didn't always want to do, Ray. It was like, I'm getting really quite sick of this. It was really boring. Why me?
Yeah. Because you weren't always this perfect specimen of a male.
Quite opposite. No, I had the meltdowns. I had tantrums.
What was your most challenging behaviour for your mum, do you think, or people around you?
Okay. One was stimming. I would get trapped in a series of flicking my fingers in front of my face, making lightning bolt thunder sort of sound effects through my mouth, and blinking my eyes quite profusely and repeatedly to a bright light. And when I take myself now, put myself back into that child going through that, as they say, stimming can be either to de-stress or it can be to stimulate.
Okay.
For me, sometimes it was for both, so if I felt perhaps negative or I didn't feel as energized, doing those things helped me to feel much more energetic
Yeah.
and to be able to carry on and do what I
Yeah.
needed to do. But sometimes that became addictive.
Yeah.
So I get lost within the stim episode.
Yeah.
And sometimes it was 5 minutes, but other times it could have gone for 20, 30 minutes.
Wow.
So, and then you repeat that over a day,
Yeah.
like 6, 7 times.
Yeah.
And, there's nearly a couple of hours or more that it could take up. And that sometimes left me, Rae, feeling like, is this my life? Is this all that?
Because it sounds like it
I'm
would be
going to
quite
do?
exhausting.
Absolutely, yes. If you imagine the aftermath was always feeling like my brain had just been thrown into an oven and it was just completely fried and cooked, and I certainly felt relaxed, only temporarily, only then to find myself being hooked on doing it again.
Yeah.
And again. And over the years, well, you've probably got a bit of, my personality in your son, which is a little bit of an addictive personality. So over the years, I not only was consciously aware, I kind of trained myself through...
Would this happen in public as well, like at school? And
Yeah, like the urge to do it and impulsively in public was there. But I was already by that stage kind of aware that, you kind of can't sort of do that around other children. You can't do that around your peers.
Did you get bullied much?
There were times, certainly I got picked on and stuff. I think there were some that were able to see and observe that, there was something not quite okay there with me in that sense. It was abnormal.
So how did you curb these urges?
Through sheer hard practice and discipline. I don't think it gets any more easier than that. Well, it's a hard thing to do, but I say to people, if you're aware of it and you are wanting to get on top of that, then you have to have a sort of a 1, 2, 3 of other things that you can do in those moments there to channel away from the very thing that you so badly want to do.
Yeah. Navigate
it off to something else.
Yeah.
That's probably more ideal for you and stuff.
So what, for example?
Well, exercise.
Okay.
Or, I'd pick up a tennis racket, and I'd have a hit of the ball against the wall, 5-10 minutes, something like that.
Yeah.
And it'd take my mind away.
Yeah.
And so some might say that's sort of a thought blocker or a way to distract. I think if you do it enough, like as we know, neuroplasticity is a wonderful science. You can retrain your brain to become more comfortable in doing other things.
Yeah.
So slowly over time, minimizing those impulses, those urges and things, and you just sort of feel more accepting and okay with doing something else. So drawing was another one. I'd love to draw mazes.
Yeah.
That kind of made me popular in primary school. Draw a maze. There you go. Figure that one out. Draw another one. Hey, Jez, I wouldn't mind one of your mazes. Give us one. And I'd fill it from one corner of the A4 piece of paper to the other. So there you go. So, I had this creative mind just to be artistic like that.
You don't still do it now, do you?
I don't have the time.
Create these great puzzle books.
If someone paid me to do it, Rae, I'd probably do it and put it in a frame. There's the big, maze for you. Solve that. That's like my mind. It takes forever to work out, but no.
I think there's another example of what you can do.
Absolutely.
What aptitude you have and what attributes that are really useful.
And look, these days as an adult, I can still every now and then still feel that urge and impulse, but it's very, very, very silent almost, so it's like I can feel it. It's more like just a build-up of energy.
Yeah.
And, in periods where I might be very excited or, feel that urge of rush of energy, endorphins after exercise, things like that. My mind sort of wants to select wanting to do those sort of childhood things and stuff, but very quickly it's put away and it's just, on with, doing what you want to do and stuff, do some work here or, talk to someone there or whatever. So that's made the whole journey that much easier, whereby I'm in control, not the condition.
Yeah.
And so I'd love to one day, when I get some time, actually sort of do a bit of filming to sort of show that the condition, whilst it's a part of you, You should work through your life if you really want to achieve and be
Yes.
successful. You should really work hard on yourself so that you can be in control and put your condition in the back seat, and you're in that front seat as a
Yeah.
driver, and you're the one navigating, not the other way round.
Which I guess, we've made it quite clear that, being on the spectrum is different for everybody.
Yes.
And, I think about a lot of parents that I work with who have 1 or 2, 3 children who are on the spectrum and get quite burnt out very quickly
They do.
by the NDIS.
Yeah.
And then the constant behaviour. And, you've just sort of described something, this impulsive behaviour that you had, that you were able to channel into something else. What kind of, we're not advice givers, but what kind of guidance would you give parents who have children that have, constant outbursts or, behaviours that are not conducive to, being out in public and things like that?
Yeah, I think it's really important to keep it simple, go back to the basics. What is the relationship there with your loved one that might be having these outbursts? I think a lot of it can certainly stem from misunderstanding or a lack of communication, these sorts of things that can be happening to pretty much everyone.
Yeah.
So I try not to sort of segregate and say like, well, just because you've got a loved one on the spectrum means that like your issues are completely so different to everyone else's. There's a thread there where everyone's sort of, working and has their challenges with their children, neurotypical or not. So things like, how much time on the digital devices, how overstimulated are they? Are they getting enough sleep? Are they getting the right nutrients? Are they getting enough of the right social interaction and engagement? All these sorts of fundamentals, Rae.
Yeah.
And what are they getting too much of, or what are they not getting enough of? And we will look at
I
all.
often see, that when the behaviour happens,
Yes.
the child's placated and, maybe given a device to
That's
calm them
right.
down, or but not held accountable.
Absolutely. That's a huge one.
Yeah.
The fact that there are so many parents that are struggling with their own anxiety and their own fears and phobias, and, from one outburst from a child that the parents unfortunately reacted and not being able to manage, that's really contributed to the unconscious shaping of the parent and how they approach the next time. They do it with fear. They do it with such stress. Whereas if my mother was, sit down and, when I'm telling you, listen to my instruction, she would put me back in my place.
Yeah.
So I think parents more than ever absolutely need to rediscover their confidence.
Yes.
So
That's a really good way of putting it, actually.
they need to get confident again, and not allow their child on the spectrum or not.
Yeah, boundaries.
That's right. Have your boundaries, and don't forget there's a difference between positive discipline versus punishment. We're not punishing our children. We're providing positive discipline and structure and framework and all these things to allow them to understand and learn life's greatest essential lesson. Is if you want to be successful and integrate, if you want to build connections and be able to achieve more, it has to start within the home environment. And it has to start with parent and child and that fundamental relationship there. Because if that's further fractured more and more because child's having outbursts, meltdown, tantrum, parents more fear, stressed and anxious, the gap widens.
That's right.
It
And if there's
widens.
other children in the family as well
Yes.
who aren't getting
That's
the right amount of attention.
and a lack of support for parents. So I'm very
Oh,
big these
yeah.
days, trying to close that gap by providing a lot of extra support and time into their child's
So what
session.
did you think about that series Atypical? Did you watch that?
Haven't watched a great deal of it, but I think always the positive is that great. We've got shows, a character, more awareness. That's great, but again, we mustn't get lost in thinking that one show this character and they
Represents the
whole
entire community.
autism community. That's right.
Yep. I think what I liked about it, it actually focused on each individual family member
Yes.
and their experience.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I think, quite often we will just focus on the person that has
Yes.
the condition
Yes.
and everyone else is forgotten about.
And a lot of things, like a lot of the families and children I do support are more gravitated towards that Asperger higher functioning end. And so sometimes I can be misunderstood for thinking or for speaking on behalf of the whole of the autism community. My heartfelt message of support and everything goes out to so many families that have a loved one that's level 3, severe autism, and an overlapping intellectual disability. There needs to be more support for those families as well, where their entire life is structured, Rae, so that they will need round-the-clock support and care and, routine and all these things. And it's a very different journey for an individual with a level 3 diagnosis compared to a level 1. So I have experienced working with the very severe side of the autism community, and I immediately bring reality into the picture for these families to say that the things I can do will help only to an extent. This is not going to necessarily be that's right, the full antidote. Yeah. But
it minimises.
We'll do the best we certainly can, But life is very different for a lot of those families on that side of the spectrum, for sure. Yeah. So for level 1, I see a lot where the potential and the capacity to become more independent is there. But for that side of the spectrum, absolutely helping and supporting a family with the right structures and things in place is what's necessary,
Well, as you know, I'm doing a bit of a project with an organisation called Ability Works, and Ability Works are a social enterprise that employs, 150 mentally and physically disabled people and socially disadvantaged people.
Wonderful.
So working with those people is just such an amazing experience. All of a sudden you don't see disability and people with, you say stage or level 3 autism who, we work with, and through that purpose of employment, there's one person I've been working with who was pretty non-verbal to begin with and now has full conversations with me.
Unbelievable. I reckon in my career, Rae, some of the most amazing, rewarding, incredible things that I've seen has probably been working with those that have more severe autism and other things. From just, wow, they can now make a bit more eye contact, or they can connect a little bit more with, say, something as basic as walking or balancing or something like that. And to everyone else that can do these things naturally, for these guys, it could take months.
That's right, but I think, like with anyone, meeting people where they are in their space as opposed to trying to get a person to fit into your space, that's for anyone.
To see someone who had such, for example, he was about 16, 17, non-verbal, very little language, have a massive, huge fear towards getting on an escalator or stepping into an elevator, to then be able to have the confidence to do those things, unbelievable, life transforming. It brought tears to the eyes, even myself. I just went, this is what makes my work that much more rewarding. Yeah. It's not just to see those that can thrive and do so well at the higher functioning end, but to really start to see some improvement there, even at the other end as well.
Yeah, well,
we all can achieve.
It's time we go to a break, Jez, because when we come back, that's exactly what I want to talk about.
Sure.
I want to talk about the birth of Time to Train and some of those stories. Like, you just alluded to one there, but over the years you've dealt with hundreds and hundreds of children and their families, and
I haven't got a wrinkly old face from all the stress of it yet.
No, not yet.
I'm doing it well. It's a natural Botox I'm doing.
It's genetics or something.
I don't know. Thanks, Mum.
Yeah,
correct.
That's right. So we're up to our next very special guest song request, and I'm pretty known for my cryptic clues, like you to work out, because you even said last night in no particular order.
That's right. Yeah.
So here goes with the clue.
I think I know. Take us back to the 80s, are we?
Welcome back. You're listening to 94.1 FM. It's 3WBC, and you're here with Rae Bonney and Jeremey Samson. Jeremey is the head honcho of Time to Train, amongst other things. And we're just thrilled to have you on the show today, Jeremey.
It's wonderful to be here, Rae. Thank you so much.
Now, before we kick off, I just had a phone call in the big office from a wonderful man. His name's Terry Dreer. Now, Terry is one of our employees at Ability Works, which I just spoke about.
Yes.
And Terry lives without sight, and you wouldn't know it at all. Like, Terry runs around. And he also produces his own radio as well.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah, and I'll send you a link to it because it's very entertaining.
Yes.
He's a very knowledgeable man, and he does quite a bit of work for us around social inclusion. So, you know, he helps organisations like Oricon when they're designing, say, tram stops or to actually come in to help design for people who have sight impairment.
Yeah, structures in place to help those vision impaired people in society.
That's right. Yeah,
wonderful.
So he's a man of great skill, accomplishment, and
you,
a nice man to boot.
Thanks for listening in, Terry. And wonderful work you're doing.
And here's a question from Mark Brown. Now, Mark Brown, long-time listener. I actually don't have words to describe Mark Brown. I love him.
It's just that good.
That's
wonderful.
Just love him. Mark said, question for Jeremy. Is autism manageable at more the adult phase, or is early intervention during childhood key? If early detected and strategies developed, can this provide for a better long-term quality of life? Mark.
Good question, Mark. So again, it's going to come down to, I guess, the individual, if depending on the severity of their condition. So again, if we are these days looking at more level 1, then their chances, most likely with early intervention, of course, will probably be a little higher there, I think, typically for them to be able to adapt and achieve. But that's not to say that someone with, say, a level 2 cannot. But the work and the support will be, it'll be different, definitely. But I'm very big on helping those to, transition from teenage and young adult years and things to, try to make that journey as successful as possible for them, because it's about, quality of life, I believe,
Yeah.
And I guess I have worked with some adults whereby the traits and the behaviours are still there and noticeable and things, but obviously doing the best I can to, help work through certain obstacles and things is just important, I suppose. You know, and that making sure that they are getting as much support as possible to help keep creating as much self-awareness.
And I think you're really lucky if you are born into support.
Yes, you are.
Again, at Ability Works, you see the parents of these people.
Yes.
It's just absolutely, like you talked about, tears to your eyes.
Yes.
Just the commitment and the love and the care that they pour into their children.
Right. That's right.
And some of their children are in their 50s and 60s.
Yes.
And the parents, obviously are more aged, but still the love and care.
That's right.
Just is unstoppable.
So I think as well, the families that do receive a diagnosis, or they can see that their child is certainly functioning a bit differently to their peers and things, that make that conscious choice to not go ahead with receiving diagnosis and things is their own personal choice, yes. But as we know, there are sometimes consequences to the choices. So if we choose not to, you do run that risk then of your loved one certainly struggling or, having a little bit of a harder time with navigating and things. Not for all, of course. Some might be a bit better than others, but I have worked with a few, Rae, that have come to me to say, I wish I had have known earlier.
We're just saying goodbye to Nicholas and Sally. They're
lovely
waiting.
to meet them. They were lovely.
How great is it?
I wish Nicholas all the very best.
Yes,
I think he's got a bright future in radio.
Well, again, he's got parents and family around him who are very, very supportive.
Absolutely.
And in fact, his uncle is one of our employees at Ability Works.
There you go.
So he was so excited. Hopefully David is tuning in today. Another wonderful man who works with us at Ability Works, very talented and David's awesome.
And so as I was
Sorry to
saying,
interrupt
no, that's
you.
right. Like just before I lose it,
That's right.
the importance, like to work with some that have come to me to say, I wish I had have known earlier that I had this condition. Again, I'm very quick to certainly take them under my wing to say that's, there's no point focusing on that.
Yeah.
There's no point being, dwelling on something like that. We just have to get on with what we can do now.
I have a question for you as well, and this does. I don't mean this to be controversial, but is it common for, say, a child on the spectrum that one of the parents might also be on the spectrum, but they're in denial about it?
Yeah, I think
because I've seen a few cases where that is the case, and the parent being in denial can have really not great effect on the child, because there's a lot of similarities in their behaviours. But
as I said earlier, when working with the child and then very quickly see that the apple hasn't fallen far from the tree, and working with the parents and families, depending on the attitude of the parents and things, when it's a family whereby mum or dad have this very much closed off, in denial attitude and approach, there's not much I can do except for accept that this is how they are, but I certainly still guide and aid them into, the strategies in the style of their parenting that's going to help in, closing that gap and towards a harmonious relationship with their loved one, because it is about support of the child or of the loved one that I'm working with. But it's always refreshing when mum or dad say, I think I got a bit of that too.
Yeah, that's right.
They do that. But I was doing a bit of that too when I was, their age and stuff. It's like, wonderful, great.
Yeah.
My mother, Rae, I used to always joke and say, well, I think you've got Asperger's.
I got it
and she says, no, I don't, son. That's what you have. And okay. Well, if I have it, where did I get it from? Sort of thing.
So this segment was all about the birth of Time to Train, and we've gone off on a bit of a tangent. But
that's right.
I know that everyone is I know the story, but the listeners don't. I'm just turning my headphones down a bit. They're a bit dodgy today. Where did it start? Why did it start? How did it start?
Time to Train, Rae, was an idea that I had come up with when I was actually doing my studies in health and fitness. And the project was come up with the name of a gym or a health facility centre if you were to run your own business. And I went, Time to Train. So I was 18. So even before 21, the design and the look of Time to Train, it was already there, a bit different to what it is now.
But did you have the same objective back then? Like, what was it that...
I entered the health and fitness industry with that, absolute philosophy and purpose of I want to help people get into shape, help them get fit, be more active, and that stemmed from, well, when you lose a father, and he was not the most fit individuals. He did all three, drank and smoked and other things. The health of all of us is all we've got that determines our life, I suppose. How much you want to live and how much you want to get out of life is really down to you. But, I think it does help to certainly be as fit or as healthy as you possibly can and happy. So I went into health and fitness in that whole field with that ideology of give back to people, watch them succeed, achieve their fitness goals, their health goals, their well-being goals. And then, that was the project, that was the name. And then years later, I was in that gym working as a consultant to get people to join up, and the family had come through with their 12-year-old.
So that's where you started. You started in a gym?
Yes. I began doing PT and fitness instructing in a few different gyms in those early years, and it was a great experience just to be in the studio and working with 15, 20 people doing spin cycle, this fitness aerobic class, that and stuff. That mainstream, to then more one-to-one PTing with family or with individuals, and doing that privately as well as on the the public ovals and things,
Yep.
even around this area. So I didn't mind all of that, but then I started to feel a bit of a change. I sort of started to get a little bit bored of all that.
Yeah.
And I was doing, sales and consulting work and things, and I, enjoyed getting people into the gym, showing them around all the things they can have access and enjoy part of their membership. That became a bit challenging, but that was all part of that time when, again, that family had come in and needed help for their 12-year-old who had Asperger's. And I said, I have that exact same condition. And they just went, how could you possibly have Asperger's? You're doing three things at once. You're talking to us, you're on the phone, you're doing that. And I just, I don't know, I can do it. And they said, well, we'll join up with you and can you help PT our son? I said, I guess I probably could. And in that very moment, it was just, wow, the epiphany, all the ideas. Yes, go back into the office and get everything back out from when I was a child there, have a look at it, really make an effort to read.
Yeah.
That wasn't my strong point, but read. And then, revolutionise it, because I thought, whilst putting it together, I don't want to make it boring and I don't want to make it painful, which is exactly what it kind of felt like at times. So, I mean, we talk of early intervention and how important that is. That doesn't always mean it's going to be enjoyable.
Yes.
So sometimes the best things that are, ideal for us aren't always fun.
That's right, because then 100% of the population would be at the gym and eating,
that's
healthily.
Right.
That's right.
Yep. And I was like, that kid again, I don't want to eat my vegetables. Give me the sweets.
Yeah.
Give me the sugars. Don't want to even brush my teeth. No, not interested. No,
Yeah.
I just want to. So my mind was, it was.
So you got your first client there.
So I got him, and I went into that with, I'm not sure what on earth this is going to do. I have no idea if this will have any impact or any effect, or if it will produce the same result as what I achieved growing up and things. But I'll give it a shot. And, he progressed. He became more coordinated, balanced. Toby was his name. And it was around that same time, starting out with him, that in that local newspaper, magically there was the article from Channel 9 that they were looking for business entrepreneurs, which by that stage I'm like, I'm no business entrepreneur, but I'll, have a look. And they had a new show. It was around the global financial crisis, so it was a time when everyone was really struggling to try to save, $1 or $2. And my mother said, we'll apply for it. I've got nothing to lose. Like, we'll just enter in. We'll see what happens. And they rang back and they said, yes, we love what you've put together and stuff. We'll, put you on our show, and you'll be, this episode will run here, and you expect to reach out to over 1.45 million people around Victoria or whatever it was, and there I was. It was just the young
So you got
PT got on.
Yep.
I think I was on 2 episodes, but there I am, promoting exercise and routine activities to help children, young teens on the spectrum, and the importance of the consistency of that whole routine and stuff. My computer crashed, Ray. I had the whole nation emailing through. We saw you, saw the show, saw the episode. Wow, what a great thing. You're inspiring. That's wonderful. We need that for our loved one. They've got autism, this Asperger's, that, blah, blah, blah. And that was it. I just thought, I've now got a duty and responsibility and the birth of a career. I have to do this. And it was very overwhelming. I had not as much experience or anything, but boy, it's been fun. But
how did you actually build it? Did they give you a grant or anything along with that?
I thought I was. I was on that episode, and I had Shane Crawford, ex-Hawthorn AFL football player, and he sat down and handed over a nice big, folder that was from the NAB bank and things. And I opened it up real quick thinking it's going to be, a nice little grant there to kickstart and all that. But it was just to sign up and just open a bank account. And I was like, oh, okay, well, that's all right. I'll just have to make do with what I've got. That's
So
it.
do you still have your business account with a NAB?
No, no, I don't. Sorry, NAB.
I actually had to do a screen test yesterday for an ad.
Yeah.
For the NAB, and it's the commercial must be about small to medium business owners and their experience. So I was asked to screen test for it, and I thought, I'm going to have a crack at that. I did mention I got my first business account with the NAB as well.
Yes.
So,
there you go. Well, I mean, all the banks do it and everything, but I did after that episode think, wow, like I really, really would have loved just even a couple of grand or something.
So how did you start then?
Just hard work, Rae.
I know, but literally, like, did you? Because I know today your business looked quite different.
Very.
So did you start like just working in gyms or?
So I was sort of doing a couple of jobs on the side and time to train at that stage was very much sort of a hobby, a part-time sort of thing. So in those early years, it was sort of, and I had the support of local health clubs to open their doors, particularly Fitness First, which I can't thank enough for them opening their doors.
First.
Yes. I know that they've not always been perfect in things with other areas to their organisation. However, in terms of support and with what I do and time to train, to open their doors and allow me to use their fitness studio as a way to support the autism community and those with Asperger's, to do weekly sessions, which I worked 7 days, Rae, to make it work and to build, where I am now, was to put in the 7 days and see as many clients and families and help as much as possible. And it was just saving whatever money I was making there to then, put directly straight back into getting a bit more promotion and materials and things like this. So the whole growth of business and being self-made, I look at, and I don't really pay much attention to it, but when I think back, it's like, well, it is possible to turn what is a spark and an idea and a passion into something big.
Well, I work in male suicide prevention. That's hardly, a glamour job, but certainly keeps me
keeps you occupied,
well,
definitely.
and keeps me employed,
And what I've learned over the years, Rae, is that it's true when they do say that if you love what you do for work, you won't ever work another day in your life. And that's not to say I haven't worked. I've worked absolutely to sustain and keep what I do going.
So now you're at a point where you've got 2 cars that are wrapped up. You've got an Audi. You might see it driving around. Have you still got the Audi?
Yeah, I've got 2 Audis, which, that's to raise awareness, but I'm also now developing other programs aside from Time to Train. Sort of Time to Train is now a bit of a trunk, and these other programs are branches.
Can we go back to the cars a little bit?
Yes.
Why do you need 2 cars? So do you go to people?
Yes, I wrapped my Audi, and I picked up that car because I thought, well, let's drive to work and enjoy it.
Yep.
And then let's use the vehicle to actually for a purpose and a difference to help.
Because to those of you that don't know what a wrapped up car is, like you will see it driving around. It's Time to Train all over this car.
Yeah.
And a shout out to the person who did that.
Well, Motorsign and Tradie Wraps over in Kilsyth did a wonderful job there, and they just finished wrapping my other Audi and threw in a cap and T-shirt and a cooler bag with soft drinks, which was wonderful. So big thanks and shout out to the team over there, and there's a couple of mats. And
so for people that want to engage with you, like if they've got a child that they want to bring to Time to Train, where do they go?
So the website, or you can Google me.
But literally, where do you go? Do you have a studio? Or
I do operate now through still the local health club here in Nuttawading, just around the corner in the Home HQ Centre. There's one facility. You'll see a banner out there with my younger self, which I look at and go, oh, I wish I had more hair like him. But anyway, I've got a wonderful fitness studio, school and access over in Lower Templestowe, which I unfortunately don't use as much as I would like. But that's there and available for one of my colleagues to certainly work and help families through them. And that's the K1 Fitness Studio. So, well, thank you very much, K1, for your wonderful support. And yes, home visits, Rae.
Yes.
So a lot of the clients and families these days are all home-based. So
Yeah.
taking that lovely wrapped vehicle out to homes. And it's funny because I get still sometimes when I pull up to the street of my client's home and someone might be walking their dog or driving past and they stop and they go, "Do you have a card? Got a brochure?"
Yeah.
I see this car every week in the street.
Just take a photo of the car.
And I go, "Yeah, it's my business card."
It's a business car.
Yeah, business car, and the D stands for driving.
Yeah.
So, yeah, take a photo and all the details are
That's
are
great.
all there.
So it's real personalised service. So what Jeremey
Yes.
delivers is, you do group training as well, which,
I actually don't do the group training. So that I tried years ago,
Yeah.
and it wasn't until I started to see the differences in improvement levels. And whilst that was both wonderful to see those that would then be quite frustrated, I suppose, by not being able to keep up, and then that lack of attention. So group sessions, and good luck to those out there who do run group sessions, thumbs up to you. Time to train is more one-on-one.
Okay, great.
So it's very personalised.
Because I think last time I saw you,
Very.
you were still doing groups, so that's how long we've been seeing each other for.
Very, very stylised, one-on-one. And yes, look, pandemic, COVID hit, and I thought, wow, this will be interesting.
Yeah.
Very lucky to still operate through all of that, which very humble.
Were you
to
seen
be able
as
to
an
do that.
essential service?
Yes.
Yeah.
That was the key thing.
Yeah, that
So
kept you going.
yes.
Another question, so is your service supported by the NDIS? So could somebody...
I'm not registered with NDIS, but I still definitely work with all families that are self or plan managed.
Yes.
So I very much always encourage families that, send through your NDIS details, your short, long-term goals,
Yeah.
all the profile background information, myself and my now wonderful good team I have under me.
Yeah.
And we absolutely see all the information of their NDIS profile and tailor make the program to suit their needs.
Okay.
Yeah.
So in the terms of their program of support, can they include you in that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, absolutely. So there's various different categories that we come under. I mean, we work close with those families
Yeah.
individually in what we can and can't use and things like that. But
Yeah.
those 8 and 12 week programs, so it's nothing like you're locked in for a 12-month, and I know all the consequence of all that. And I thought putting time to train together, I don't want people to be locked in for that sort of long term. I want them to have the option of try us out. You've tried everything else out.
Yes.
Nothing's really worked, but give us a shot and see how you go with even just an 8 week. And a lot do, and they extend to 12, and that's lovely. And look, and some of them today, Ray, they've been with me for 2 and 3 years, which is just wonderful. And that really pays off because, as I say on the website, adherence and consistency to this program and routine, if we're doing things well, which we do our best, we can start to see those improved results coming through within a 3, 6 to 9 month period.
Yeah.
Some it is longer. It might take about 12 or 2 years. But I was doing this very routine, not as much, but the same stuff as a child that took about, 2 years, I reckon.
Yeah.
A solid 2 years. And a change of diet and these other things which I sit down with families and say, look, this will all work a lot more effectively if we're doing other things to complement the routine. So yes, you've got to be doing these exercises every day, not just once a week when I'm there.
Yes.
Or when we're attending your home. You've got to put in. It's like, well, would you only brush your teeth once a week and
Well,
think
you
that they're
said
going to be
before
clean?
that you'd never brushed yours.
Yeah, I know, which I got, trust me, there were consequences for that,
Yeah.
hefty dental fees
Yes.
and all the rest. So it's so important to be putting in as much of the routine and consistency there, but then looking at all the other factors.
Yeah.
And again, we've just heard again, Ray, on the news, I think, that there's a very strong link between too much digital technology and time spent on the devices and those with a diagnosis of autism.
Oh.
Yeah.
Hardly surprising.
Hardly surprising, but it's just being reinforced once again. So a lot of anxious, overstimulated children, and there is the features of autism.
And that's not to say no technology, because
Not to say
technology is
no.
great, but just
Yes.
everything balance.
Yeah, it's common sense. I really exercise that balance. Don't rob
Yes.
them of their fun and entertainment.
No.
Or if they just want to escape the stresses of life.
Yes.
Absolutely,
But
go
also,
for it.
but also connection through technology
100%,
is
yes.
fantastic.
All of it. I'm very big. I was doing that stuff back in the 90s through the old school PC and all that, through the games. But, I could feel when, this meant more to me than doing everything else.
That's right.
And when it starts to take over and it starts to shape your attitude and influences your behaviour differently, that's when it can be of
And
concern.
that's where some of those attributes of people on the spectrum being fixated on
100%.
something like that.
It can take right over and it can grow over you, sort of thing. So my parents and family back then were, I think you've done too much of that. I've got to put a stop to that. And we call it digital detoxing. Some families do have to actually put in a digital detox routine, pull it right back. And I always say it's never easy to get a child on the spectrum who absolutely loves their technology to agree to that sort of thing. But it is so important for their health. And you wouldn't let someone continue to do something that was only pushing them further to something worse. Yeah, so that's where parents I do encourage and support in having that confidence, as we talked about earlier. You've got to have the strength to be able to ride through the difficulties of the fierce comeback and the fierce behaviours that come from your loved one on the spectrum. Yeah.
Well, speaking of loved ones, we've only got 25 minutes left of the show.
That is moving very fast.
I know. Whenever I get in the studio, it's like somebody just grabs the hour hand, just goes.
I forgot how fast time flies when you're having fun doing radio with your Rae.
I know. I could actually spend my whole life just on radio, yakking on, just guest after guest.
Absolutely.
But next up, we're going to circle back to what is it like being you, and also what your plans are for the future as well, because I know you've got a few there in the bucket, and wrap the show. So we've got our third special guest song request. Do I have a cryptic clue? This one has a song title that resonates with our relationship, That We Never Give Up.
It wouldn't happen to be Mr. Rick Astley, would it?
It certainly would be.
Wow.
And everyone can guess the...
And people still today say that when they hear that song, they think of me, because I'm probably a bit obsessed with the old Rick, truth be told. Yeah, I love how he dances,
You're not the only person. Rick Astley pops up in my life frequently, and I don't know why.
You're still Rick-rolling people today. Yeah, we know this. That's right. But it's the most catchiest of tunes. That's it.
It is. All right, well, everyone enjoy this song. A bit of Rick Astley, Never Gonna Give You Up. You're listening to 94.1 FM.
And I'll be dancing.
We both will be dancing. It's 3WBC. Don't go away. You were telling me this awesome little story when Rick started playing about how this song came about.
So I've absolutely, and a feature, I guess, of some people on the spectrum, Rae, is they can very quickly get a real sort of deep fixation and obsession almost into things or particular people and stuff. I, for some reason, growing up, got really connected with Rick Astley and the personal journey of how he got to where he got, and again sort of used a bit of that as inspiration in my own journey myself and stuff. But he revealed in an interview once back in the day of revealing that when putting that video clip together and featuring in that not only did he dress himself originally, so all those clothes that he does wear, like the trench jacket and things, that wasn't given to him. He actually picked all that outfit and wardrobe himself, apparently.
Right.
And secondly, the dance moves, there wasn't anything that was choreographed or learnt. He just did it on the spot. It was just like improvisation. And apparently he was just feeling quite anxious.
Yeah.
Had no idea what the hell to do and just started flapping the arms around. Just rolled with that. So what looks like the geeky, dorky, the dance is just Rick just doing whatever came natural to him.
Anxiety driven.
Yeah, anxiety. That's it. Yeah.
I'm going to have to watch that later.
But he does it so well. It's just like you don't you're never going to probably see another artist that's going to, or a musician, dance or performer move like that, in a video clip, So he's one that will, he'll go down and be remembered for being the ultimate quirk.
Is that an 80s or 90s?
He's the 80s. He was number one top chart hits of the UK in 1987, which was when I was born. So, his songs were,
Well, I know that Rory, my 13-year-old, they talk a lot about Rick Astley being Rickrolled and stuff like that.
It caught on. So he's attracted a lot of younger
audience
members. Yeah, absolutely.
So, Jez, what does it feel like being you today?
What does it feel like being me today? Wow, it's extraordinary. Like I said earlier in the show, I don't feel like any of the things that used to really challenge and be a real massive obstacle in my life as a child are really there. It's wonderful to sort of feel like I'm not only in control, but I get to experience the freedom, I suppose. And what I mean by freedom is that, I'm independent in my own self in the way that I think, in the way that I carry myself. I've really worked hard to really accept that you can't carry yourself pretending to be someone or something that you're not. So I understood how to be just myself, right down to how you talk, how you act, how you behave, things like that. 35 this year and just feeling like it's all pieced together nicely. Like I feel that whole picture and just forever learning still more and more and more.
So what's next?
So at the moment, Rae, time to train, as I say, is kind of the trunk of a wonderful tree that is blossoming, and I've just really been focusing on other avenues to continue the support of people on the spectrum. And so one of them is the car therapy, which will be time to ride. You've got time to ride. Let's go for a bit of a ride. So be a passenger in my lovely Audi vehicle.
Oh, right.
And let's do some car therapy, which in short is creating the sensory vehicle experience in overcoming anxiety, particularly transport anxiety.
Yeah.
And, they have the freedom and flexibility of their music. And there's a few other things I can't give away just right now.
Yeah.
But the trial sessions with clients and that I've been doing that with has shown wonderful positive changes in their mood, behaviour, social and conversation skills, confidence, more engaged in what's going on, not being stricken to the devices, which a lot of families can go, we're going from A to B, have that.
Yeah.
So time to ride. And some of them just say to me, I love doing this, Jeremy, because I get to get out of the house away from mum and dad. I'm not as stressed.
Yeah.
So that's one.
How do you go insurance-wise with that? Is that, given that you're driving people in your car?
It's all sorted.
Yeah.
Let's just say I've got it all arranged and all the legalities and everything all there, which when you've learnt business over the years, it just gets a little bit better, a little bit easier.
Yeah.
So that's all.
It sounds wonderful in that, I like the idea of moving forward.
Yes.
That, that the feeling of it.
Well, that's right. And it's not just like your older car sort of thing, which no disrespect to older vehicles.
My car
and
was
things.
built in 1989, so please don't disrespect.
No, definitely not. I parked next to yours and it's an honour, truly. But when you're in a luxury vehicle where the comfort is there and the you just feel immersed by the the surroundings, and the windows are all tinted so they can't see in, and you can see what's going on. They're chauffeured around and they love it, as well as learning about what's going on in their surrounding environment. So we might be just going a local drive and they have no idea where they are. So there's an opportunity to learn. I'm not teaching them how to drive.
You don't get lost or anything.
I wouldn't probably be driving an Audi if that was my problem, Rae. Well, there's Jez. Didn't understand that's a red light. But it's so far just incredible that, again, movement is medicine, and it doesn't always have to be just moving the body physically. That our eyes are engaging, doing a lot of moving because we're on the move in the vehicle. So I'm really looking at all the scientific research and evidence down that path to further endorse and acknowledge that what I'm doing here is is of great importance, and it's a great some already love cars and things.
Yes.
So they just can't wait
Yeah.
to just look under the hood to get a feel of what it's like to sit in such a vehicle. So a lot of benefits there. The other one is the aquatic program, Time to Swim, and that's coming much later down the track.
Yeah.
But putting that together is a lot of fun. And as we know, swimming is so important for all of our loved ones, and so water safety,
Given
getting
we're
more
surrounded by water.
100%. Just the beach experience, rather than children, really having a fear of firstly sand or water and stuff. Well, those things that we can...
And more recently, sharks.
Yeah, I know. Poor, that was such an absolutely tragic thing.
Terrible.
But, we want our children to certainly have more confidence in approaching those experiences a little better and much easier. And the NDIS, I hope, will certainly give the green light in supporting more of those small group to one-on-one private lessons and tuition of swimming for children and young teens on the autism spectrum. So Time to Swim. The other one, Rae, real quick, as time is eluding us.
Heaps of time.
Hangout time is, kind of in between caring and support work, but it's a program designed to provide friendship and companion. And these will be individuals that have previously participated in Time to Train that have reaped the benefits. And I have so far about 3 lovely former students of mine that were about sort of 14, 13 years of age that I've mentored over the years, and they've now grown up, Rae.
Oh.
And they've come back.
Yeah.
And they've said, we've remembered it, and we've benefited a lot from everything that you taught us and we went through with you, Jeremey. We'd like to make a difference. How can we help? So I'm looking at having families with loved ones to have someone there as kind of like an older brother or a sister, like a friend that can be there to fill the gap of if they don't have friends or they may struggle.
Or need to be introduced.
Yes. But it's again not so much support work and carer where they've got to follow or do certain things. This is more relaxing, which in turn can
and
actually far more beneficial.
Would that happen sort of outdoors or?
It can be outdoors. It again is sort of very similar with Time to Train. It's through the home environment. Yeah. So they arrive and they're doing whatever for an hour and a half. Yeah. So a little bit longer than just the standard one hour, a little bit longer. And that might be something like, they can hang out, play those video games, or, the individual wants to show off their games, this, talents, that, talk about this. And the hangout time facilitator or person is just basically there to, be immersed in that whole experience. As well as definitely navigate and guide them to looking at, exploring and experiencing other things and stuff. So, but that wonderful relationship again between, individual and that person facilitating it is so important.
Yes.
Yeah. So not all of these guys have, unfortunately, the best of relationships with their older or younger siblings.
Yes.
And even parents. So we come in and sort of fill that hole there, if you will, and can take a lot of pressure and stress off.
Well, that's right.
The parents.
But what you're delivering is not babysitting.
It's not babysitting.
It's helping with
that's
that
right.
building of independence.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a strong element of there's 2 people with lived experience.
Yeah.
One's gone through the support and work and has reaped the rewards, and now we're passing that down.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's 2 people at various different stages and positions in their life, and they've come together to talk and share and, connect together.
That's fantastic.
Which is wonderful.
I mean, again, building that business model to benefit
others. I don't want it can't really work as effectively if it's just those who have come from a support worker background.
Yes.
And they're just there to work and help.
Because
it's not the same.
There's not that level of understanding.
Yeah. I've recruited those that have been on board Time to Train, that have the diagnosis, that have really worked hard on themselves like myself.
Yeah.
And it is now time to hang out and
Yeah.
help
Yeah.
more people.
So is this just Victorian based at the moment?
At the moment.
Yeah.
At the moment. I do have, with time to train, a couple that are in WA, which is
Yes.
wonderful as well, because there's absolutely very
It's a different
minimal.
country at the moment, isn't it?
I know. I feel
No one comes in, no one goes out.
It's WA. Wait a while. So much over there that I my heart goes out to the state and all. But I'm just grateful that I do have a wonderful mother and a very good friend of mine, and both of them have children that are also on the spectrum with conditions, and are very passionate to help me expand and to reach out to more families and things. So that's WA, and of course, hopefully in the future again, Ray, reach out as I once did to certainly more country Victoria or Sydney. Or any state where there's individuals that
Well, I
would be
remember
keen,
one
yes.
time when I was doing breakfast radio years ago, and I had you on, and you were in the US.
Yeah.
What's your mate's name over there?
My US ambassador, Mr. Paul Dirks,
That's
which
right,
he
Paul
might be
Dirks.
listening in.
And
Yes.
you two were actually on the road.
We were. That's right.
I thought hopefully we can keep this connection.
Yeah, that's right. What an exciting adventure that was. I really
Yeah.
hope to get over to the US again.
But you were speaking over there, weren't you?
That's right.
Yeah.
I was in Texas, Houston, Texas, for a large sort of autism convention.
Yeah.
And it was wonderful to meet some like-minded individuals, but all coming together to certainly, talk about what we're doing in our respective countries to help people with autism and to share and network and all that sort of stuff. I hope to get over to another one that I've been invited to in London. So that's maybe June, July of this year.
Yeah.
I've got to weigh that up, of course, with the whole COVID and everything. And I don't know, air travel. I haven't done it for a long time, as we all.
Such a privilege.
I know, right? Totally. So, and look, I stepped away a lot from the talk circuit and seminars, presentations, doing workshops and things, just to really knuckle down, and just to keep focusing on the groundwork and helping families and things. And so I'm very much open to one day doing more talks again in the future and stuff when the time is right.
Well, once the world opens up.
Once the world does open up.
I know. I've just got all these gigs booked like really fast.
That's right.
As soon as the green light, it's like, oh.
Away you go.
Yeah,
That's right.
I love a stage.
Yeah.
Love a microphone.
Yeah, absolutely. And you do it so well. And that's why your work again is so important in helping, to put the word and message out there that it's, and I love that, it's okay to be not okay. I said not long ago just to some of my followers and supporters that, if you honestly think that a healthy life is always trying to sustain a smile, think again. It's not ideal whatsoever. It's okay to have your days and your periods where you're absolutely opposite.
Yeah.
To break down this or to express your emotions that.
But sitting in pain. I mean, I don't take medication for my mental health challenges, but when anxiety and depression come at once, it hurts.
It's a wave, isn't it? Yeah.
It really bloody hurts.
What you're doing, for example, right now is the best. It is the medication.
This is my medicine.
It's a microphone.
Yes, that's right.
You know what I mean?
That's right. Everything disappears. The whole world goes away. And
so I say, I say to people all the time, if it's get involved and do a sport, this, get out there to your community, that, even go to your cafe and sit down and have a chat, with someone or start a conversation there.
Yeah,
that is as good as anything, if not better.
Yeah.
Than taking, whatever you got to take.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
and not saying that medication.
Not saying that. No,
medication works
absolutely
so well for
that's right.
many. But I think we are so afraid of pain.
Yes,
and so we medicate it. Headaches, we medicate it. That's the instant.
We're programmed to just quickly go, okay, what can I take and where can I get it from, sort of thing. We're very quick to rely on that.
We saw the pain of COVID. Dan Murphy's. I think they're probably.
I know, right? Yeah, I'm surprised it was the shelves of toilet paper that was empty. What about those liquor stores and things, eh?
You know what I did that was really smart, and I'll give them a bit of a plug because they're awesome. But it's Who Gives a Crap toilet paper. So they're Australian organisation who have environmentally safe toilet paper.
Yeah,
and it's very, very good quality as well. But you actually just order. So I think got something like 56 rolls of toilet paper. Then every 6 months they just automatically send you more. But the packaging, the wrapping, you can is reusable as well. So I keep the packaging from each roll of toilet paper, put it in a cupboard, so everyone that gets a present from me has who gives a crap toilet paper wrapping.
Oh, I love
all
that.
Stuck together.
I love that.
And then, if I'm really cheeky, once they've unwrapped it, I'll say, "Can I have that back?" So I can reuse it again.
That's brilliant.
But it's awesome. It's really good quality.
Well,
and
that's
you never have to worry about pandemic,
ever again.
No.
No, I went out. I just got like the thickest, the most softest of roll, like that lasts so long.
Yeah.
And not that I reveal too much, but I always think, well, you don't need to like pull the whole roll and then break off and then just wipe real, real strongly. You just got to be smart and sensible, and you only need.
We don't roll like that in our house.
Yeah,
it's like
that's fair enough. That's fair enough. I just had an idea. Though.
Actually, I've just had an idea as well, Jeremy. I think we need to finish the show because it's actually.
But how about Rick roll toilet paper? Huh? You remember that?
Now, coming up next, as I've just saw her beautiful face just walk in the door, is Paula Hogg. Paula Hogg is going to be producing a lazy Sunday afternoon. As she always does. And so sit back, relax, enjoy the afternoon. If any of our discussions today have brought up any uncomfortable feelings for listeners, please remember help is there. And here's a few options for further support. Lifeline is 131114. Suicide callback service 1300 659 467, and of course emergency services here in Australia is 000, not 999. I'll be back on Sunday the 20th of March with a cracker of a guest. His name's George Danikian. He's a veteran of media, current affairs and journalism who has way too many stories to tell. I'm not entirely sure if I'll get a word in. It will be George.
The big GD.
Big GD. So until then, folks, please take care. Jez, thank you for coming on the show today.
Thank you, Rae.
It
Pleasure.
was such
Pleasure.
a delight.
An honour to be here and to work with you again as old times and stuff. So we will look at doing another one in the future. I hope that would be wonderful.
So we've got one more song.
Oh, here we go.
What is it?
Oh, off the top of my head, I think was JB, Justin.
No. Oh, it is actually.
Yeah,
it is JB.
There it is.
I was thinking, and it's called Stay.
Stay.
So don't stay. Please go home so Paula can get on her show.
Sure, exactly.
See you later, everyone.
See you guys.
Bye.